Hey there, so welcome to another review. So today's book I'm going to be reviewing is Star Wars from a certain point of view. So this is essentially a collection of stories set all during the time of Star Wars: A New Hope. As the book it says on its front cover, 40 stories celebrating 40 years of Star Wars. And then of course on the back has a nice the 40 years logo that they showed at Celebration also. But yeah, so I read it with about 7 days before I have to return it to the library. And I get only 3 weeks, so with a week to spare. No, not a week. Yeah, a week. Right? Yeah. Let me check the calendar. Yeah, essentially a week to spare. So I was able to read this book in 2 weeks. Not bad considering I read a few stories each night. So yeah, some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. Nice, and the changing style I was okay with. The only style change I really didn't care for was when they went to the one of them by Ian Dosha. I'm probably butchering that name. That was probably the only change in style I didn't like. The short story there is called Palpatine, and I won't go too much into a plot details there, but the thing I didn't like about it is that it was poetry, and I don't like poetry. But that's a personal thing. It was good. It really was a good story. Being poetry, it's harder for me to focus on it. And yes, so it's about Palpatine receiving word of Obi-Wan's death. But it does it's poetry, Shakespeare kind of thing. And when I read in the back talk a little bit about this, yeah, I kind of recognize it as more Shakespearean now, though when I first read it, I thought poetry. That's the thing, though, sometimes. Like, I probably would be better if I had gotten more Shakespeare experience in high school. Common Core curriculum changes. Actually, it wasn't really in Common Core, but curriculum changes did affect it. But that's it's just a style of myself. Just a personal thing. Somebody might love it. That might be their favorite style here. But yeah, there's all different kinds of styles. There's two from the point of view of some droids. The first one is from the Astromech R5. So his told like a regular story, but there was one about a mouse droid. That was actually quite a hilarious one. Oh yeah, it was of MSE6 and Men. I think kind of a play on of Mice and Men. So yes, that was kind of a neat thing to see there. It was an interesting story nevertheless. We get to find a little bit about TK421 and all that. Without ever actually going into his field of view. There's a lot of others. There's one whole story, duty roster, totally about who was serving in the Battle of Endor, who fought. So that was an interesting thing to see. See, we got to learn a lot about the pilots in that one. So yeah, the person who's in charge of all the technicians is who that one's it's a point of view of. And it's kind of neat, talks about, was it duty roster? No, it was not duty roster. But duty roster was pretty good because we got to learn a lot about Red Squadron there. Sorry, wrong one. Was it the Angle? Or Grounded? I'm sorry, I'm slipping through. Yeah, it was Grounded. Even though the person whose point of view was not actually grounded, it's just where she was stationed, because she was apparently in charge of all the ground crew members. But for example, also talked about what ships were in use, how many were in use, and what ships were not. And so there were 7 X-Wings that were not used. And not 7 spacecraft. 5 X-Wing, 1 Y-Wing, and 1 U-Wing. And they give a reason that 2 of the X-Wings were cannibalized for pods for the other X-Wings. 3 had no pilots to crew them, though there was an inconsistency because they stated, though, that in duty roster that there was Fake Red was grounded in that battle. He was not flying. So so that there created a slight inconsistency there. Couldn't they have put him in one of those two? The Y-Wing and the U-Wing had only 4 ships I would say had solid excuses. The 2 X-Wing that were essentially cannibalized, the Y-Wing couldn't even didn't work, and the U-Wing would be, well, not only no crew, but apparently also it would have no use in that battle. But also, like, that was kind of neat because how I talked about each individual pilot, especially Red Squadron, but they also did other ones, including some from Scarif who were not in A New Hope. Like, I'll just use, like, for Red Leader, where he was flying Red 1 pilot, the name, the flight hours, whether or not they were async, if they were like a double, triple, quadruple, and how many confirmed kills. And of course, talked about others. No, of course, nearly all of them were through in the wedge, so I expected him to have more flight hours. But talked to when the ground crew chief was talking about it, mentioned General Syndulla, though still no clue about whether or not, we presume she was at the battle scale, and whether or not she survived, we still don't know. But given how I don't know for sure, so. And then of course Luke Skywalker has probably the most interesting thing. So just simply, Luke Skywalker, unknown flight hours. Though he actually does have a kill under his belt on the Millennium Falcon, so they could have given him that. So yeah. But it was kind of, and there's a lot of other things here. This is a story from the point of view of Biggs, which, if you've been been watching Star Wars videos on YouTube for a long time, you've probably already have discovered the Star Wars YouTube, the YouTube channel Star Wars Explained, where the host is, who's the host, and Biggs is the host's favorite character. So, you all know that what his favorite story was probably in here was. But yeah, there was a lot of nice stories. There was one from the perspective of Dr. Aphra on Dantooine, so a character who was never really even on screen in here. But one of them but there was actually 2 on Dantooine. The one that was from the point of view of Dr. Aphra, but also another one, Far Too Remote by Jeffrey Brown. All it is one panel of a cartoon. That literally says, "Meanwhile on Dantooine, something tells me they only really heal." It's like, and of course it's just cardboard boxes labeled Rebel Base. It's an S backwards and a UL instead of a EL. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. I won't give though too much more about it, because you really should look at it for yourself. But it is short, but it's great. There's the story by Pablo Hidalgo alternates between the view of Tarkin and Krennic. Krennic gets the middle section while Tarkin gets the edges, and this is kind of funny. Let's see. Yeah. Just. Oh, actually, no. Alternates? Yeah. I'm just double checking. But there was some nice symmetric poetry in it. It was really nice. That was kind of nice to see. Oh man, why can't I find it? I want to make sure I get it right. Oh yeah, okay, so it goes this. Krennic had been a builder pretending to be a leader. In the end, it was his undoing. And then this is what Krennic thought about Tolkien. Tolkien was a politician pretending to be an architect. In the end, Krennic knew it would be his undoing. I just love that symmetry, and it was, and it was really in a way right. It is right. Though of course, one thing you gotta be here about, especially when you're the candidacy of all this, is unreliable narrators. So yeah, so like how I mentioned, there was that one inconsistency that Groundon brought up when compared to Duty Roster. That's really, now the question is, which one of those is the unreliable narrator? Is Fake Reg the unreliable narrator, or Cole something or other, I forget his name. Is he the unreliable one, or is the person in charge of all the ground crew personnel the unreliable one? I would say Fake Reg is the unreliable one. And this is kind of like I think it was after the briefing. Yeah, what had been, no, before the briefing, where Reg sat next to Fake Reg, and just kind of maybe to lighten the tension between them, says, "Hey everyone, I'm Fake Cole," instead of having Cole being known as Fake Reg. That was kind of a nice little thing there, and this kind of shows some stuff. But yeah, there is some question, is are there unreliable narrators, which is going to be very likely. Like the Dianoga. Yeah, the Dianoga. I had trouble reading that that was probably the one I had maybe even more trouble than the poetry one. Who knows? But the very last one, Will's, is literally the story of writing the opening crawl. And and he's apparently conversing with somebody who prefers the prequels over the original trilogy. It's kind of funny, and I think also maybe it somewhat reflects the creation process of Star Wars, the actual one. Like it has in that it has a reference to, has of course lots of references. So yeah, there's reference to the for episode, there's to episode 6's I'm sorry, episode 6's production titles to used in production, all that. So they put it after episode 7, probably just to make it nice and confusing for everyone. So I'll begin this part 2 with the rating of it. As I had said, I greatly enjoyed this book, so I decided to give this book 5 stars out of 5. Don't do it too often, but it was just it's such a good book. Yes, there were some parts I didn't like, but that's always to be expected, really. Just a few other kind of things I wanted to add I did not have in my original audio was that I would not have taken anything away from this book, and so in that respect I can't say I would want to add anything, because then it wouldn't be 40 stories celebrating 40 years. But yeah. But though maybe some individual tweaks to individual stories here and there, but that would be it. But now I'll go enjoy the rest of my proper review. It's going to pick up right where I left off in part 1, so it may seem a bit arbitrary. But if you're watching these two back to back, you shouldn't have any problem if you're willing to skip this intro. But yes, but it is kind of funny. You have to read it for yourself. I won't spoil it for you, but it's funny. But yeah, definitely talking about the Journey of the Wheels. There's a lot of them because we got the first one, all of them talking about from so many points of view. Greedo, pretty much everyone but the main characters. Yeah, some kind of funny ones. Oh yeah, there's a couple written like as reports. Those were fun. Let me turn to one of them. The one titled "The Incident Report." Oh yeah, an incident report by Mallory Ochtburg. So this one's is from the point of view of uh, Admiral Marty, I believe. Yeah, Admiral Marty, and he essentially is writing a report or a PR report kind of thing, a complaint on Darth Vader force choking him, and it is like so funny, but it is kind of funny, but at the same time not. It is kind of nice. It is interesting to see for sure, like how sorry, and how Admiral Martin here is saying, like, I'm not the problem, Vader's the problem, I'm no big nigga. Vader's the one who's shoving his force religion down my throat. It's quite interesting to see. It almost like makes him think he is biased against the force because how strong he says he's not. But it is interesting to see, like, what happens on those upper levels when there is a disagreement like that. And, like, imagine a small little lowly stormtrooper writing an instant report like that. But there was another instant. Oh yeah, and right before an instant report, there was a point of view from General Tag, who was in charge of the army. And mentioned that one specifically mentioned that Krennic chose the empty one, which is kind of nice to know. But yeah, and he was the one who questioned and all that, but he's also the one who really was the most smart. I would love to see him meet Grand Admiral Thrawn. I think Grand Admiral Thrawn still be smarter than that, but I have a feeling that they would be able to understand each other. Kinda like wanting the bigger picture. Thrawn I think might play a better long game, but it's hard to say. This book review is between fully operational and instant report reviewers attack not only questioned the Death Star as a whole, but he questioned why the Senate needed to be dissolved. Like, he literally had this, like, he wanted the Senate to be dissolved, but he didn't at the same time. It's quite interesting. Maybe, so yeah. There's autism. There's a point of view from the Biff one of the Biff musicians. That's nice to see, and it borrows some from the Legends storyline. Oh, there's one from the perspective of Aunt Beru. Yeah, some of these are like perspective goes right into their deaths. Actually, Aunt Beru is actually I think is actually right after it. A little bit before, but it's like all during her death is like when it's taking place. There's an episode from the point of view of episode A, sorry, from the point of view of Qui-Gon Jinn. That was nice to see. So yeah, point of view, we got Yoda's point of view. One is actually very convoluted to say. It goes in and out between past, present, future. It's like, wait a second, oh no, wait. It's like, it plays fascinating with the sense of time. Something that we alluded to from Qui-Gon's perspective in Force Ghost. And then, of course, we also get the story from Yoda's point of view on Dagobah and how he wanted to train Leia, not Luke. I personally think he should have trained both of them. That would have been very useful. And how and his only possessions were Qui-Gon's cloak, which he used as a blanket, and a bow that Obi-Wan apparently made when he was a Padawan. His only possessions. And he sacrificed the bow to protect himself from apparently Imperial Pole droids are searching for him and haven't found him. Good to see the Empire not giving up. But yeah, it's kind of, and then that's like right after Obi-Wan, right before, after, during when Obi-Wan dies. Kind of in order to see that feeling that the bow gets destroyed at the same time. And then it goes when Obi-Wan comes, he's frustrated at Yoda for losing in the boat he made, but that he saved Qui-Gon's cloak. But Qui-Gon's cloak might have been a little more necessity. Even though you're living on probably a generally warm, tropical, warm, dry, humid planet, there probably are cold nights, probably a cold season too. Though the boat can be used for two, otherwise you gotta to keep your food somewhere. And though he's shown to have more stuff in his hut in Return of the Jedi. And it's possible he made other stuff too. So I do kind of question the fact that how even after like 20 years, he still reaches for his lightsaber, even though he doesn't have any regrets not having it. Kind of like, do we want him to be like regular Jedi always go for lightsaber, or do we want him to be more force oriented? In all honesty, I don't know, but it's kind of good to see in a way, see that. But oh man, if I could go on and on about this, I'm all, I'm already at 20 minutes long for a video. It's actually and 20 minutes long for me. It's probably gonna be divided in half for you, cause unlike one video of mine where the review was unable to be uploaded because it was too long, this one I will be splitting into 2 parts if it is too long, unlike that one which I just recorded a short temporary video for, which is essentially the main video for. But that's not what I'm planning on to do for this one. This one I actually want to record it and have it out. Probably 2 parts because of its length, but that's regardless. But yeah, there's so many good stories from the perspective of stormtroopers who were under stormtroopers under the influence. There was actually one from the perspective of an Imperial soldier who was guarding Princess Leia. I believe that, yeah, it was it was called Change of Heart by Elizabeth Green, and literally, it talks about him, well, it could be her. I think it does refer to him, but not quite sure. But yeah, I just presume T for some reason. Don't know why. Just as an opposite, to Princess Leia. That seems like how it was written. But opposite but similar somehow. I honestly don't know. It's actually pretty broad. But like I'm just gonna use he because I didn't see anything indicating this stormtrooper's gender. But yeah, he guarded Princess Leia, watch her get tortured by Vader, question her on the Death Star in the fire control room where he orders the Death Star to be fired at Alderaan, and apparently this stormtrooper could tell that Leia was lying about it when she said that the base was on Dantooine. It was like, and he was like, while not showing her in his head, was like, how could you possibly not know she was lying? It's hard to say. And then this one I may be reviewing a bit more, but it's just kind of neat. And apparently the stormtrooper thinks that nobody saw it, as I said. And then he's questioning whether or not he should say something. Is he being tested, kind of thing? And where he questioned what was gained by speaking out. Where show your perception about untapped potential as interrogator, and things like that, almost like questioning, and ends up not doing it. And the reason revealed in here why he did not is because if he was in Princess Leia's place, he would do the exact same thing that she did. And so essentially, he became a rebel just by not telling the Empire that Princess Leia was lying. And he probably ended up dying when the Death Star got destroyed. Just think about that. Of those who knew what happened, especially among the lower ranks, how many of them were ended up switching sides but were unable to get off the Death Star before its destruction. Just makes you think. And there was one that was apparently the Death Star's divided into 4 sectors for command, and information's given out on a need-to-know basis, and how so most people would never know what was going on. It's like that one revealed that most Imperials on the station may never have knew about it. almost makes you think that the best strategy would have been to insert commanders to take control of the Death Star and take a bunch of prisoners, disable the Super Razor, and turn it into a giant floating rubber base. Just imagine if they did that. That could be a good Star Wars fan fiction. But yeah, it's just so many stories in here. There's a lot said during the cantina, in my opinion, maybe too many, but it's nice to see them. But yeah, it is a good read. I highly recommend that you read it, if you have not done so already, of course. Thank you for watching this review. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and comment down below. What did you think of this book, Star Wars, from a certain point of view? With 40 different authors that I won't even bother naming. You can go read that for yourself. Also consider following me on social media. Links are in the description. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are, and may the force be with you always.